2, and I want to begin with, if you like, a context to the bird survey, which I'll be talking about shortly, which is the nature trail for Betchworth and Buckland, which the Biodiversity Initiative is trying to create this year. That's the picture of it, and if I can take you through very quickly, imaginary walk. We're going to begin at St Michael's Church in Betchworth, come out of the car park, through the orchard, through Goldman Green on the left with the wildflower strip. We then walk along the path past the school with the wonderful wildflower strip that the estate has sown, just coming into its own now. Carry on up the little pathway. Beautiful hedge. Paul's been talking about hedges many times, and I think it's something we can celebrate in this area. Across the road, by the side of the post office, another beautiful hedge on the left, hawthorn and blackthorn hedge, up to the first of our green corridors, the A25. You go look at the A25, it's just lined with wonderful old hedges, old trees, and it's full of birds, which you can hear at 5 o'clock in the morning when there's no traffic. Across the road, and then across the pasture, over the railway bridge, the second green corridor, the railway line, again full of trees and shrubs and quite dense brush. Across the arable field up to the hills, and then you enter the woodland. The woodland, mixed deciduous and yew tree woodland. Walk along the edge of the boundary there, the woodland edge, which is always full of birds. Up the little escarpment, there's a little staircase going up through the wood, and you come out on the top, overlooking the beautiful views by the Limekiln. Chalk, scrubby grassland there, scrub behind it, lots of trees. Down the path, again it's all wooded. Come out the bottom by the station, behind the station, across the road, on the railway path, on the south side of the railway, it's all wooded, little copses, lots of old hedge. Come out onto Grexley Lane, where Alan lives, Pause Field, beautiful arable field, but there's a lovely tree-lined lane there with some very old trees. I think there's an old tree that's probably about 300 years old there. Cross the level crossing, down Rexbury Lane, passing Rexbury Green, with the chalk with the acid grassland there. Along the lane, lots of woodland area, lots of beautiful flowers in the hedgerow. Onto the green, got the pond, Buckland Pond, which I think is rapidly losing water at the moment, but beautiful sight for a big chunk of the year. Across the road, down Old Road, and then you hit a footpath that takes you over to the back of the Red Lion. You hit Tranquil Wood, which is point 15 on there, and then double back down to where you park your car, where we started, by the church. It's a wonderful, wonderful walk. It takes about 2 hours. It's about 6.5 kilometres long, and you see an awful lot of plant and animal life en route. And that's the reason we have tried to create it from existing paths and roads and lanes, is to encourage people to wander along it. It's all relatively easy walking, but for those people who can't walk because they don't have that mobility, we'll make movies, video clips, so you can still experience that pathway. And you can see from that range of pictures there some of the beautiful sights on the path. So it's about trying to encourage people to get into nature in a very systematic way, to raise awareness of wildlife, but it's also to focus attention and to encourage us to study what's there and to provide a focus for conservation efforts as well. And from a study point of view, we've commissioned 4 days of professional ecological surveys along the trail, and when we have the information, we're going to provide it so that people who want to walk the trail, there will be a map and there will be a guide, and we will have some good quality ecological information about the biodiversity along the trail. So that's the sort of background to what I want to say, introduce the bird survey. So, first of all, I should say I'm no bird expert. I'm not like Paul. I can't rattle off the birds and say, that this bird characterises this sort of, or lives in this sort of habitat, has these sorts of characteristics. But like all of you, it seems, what I do have is access to the Merlin app. And I'm very happy to go out and wander and listen, and where I can see, that's the other thing with birds, you can't always see them, can you? And to record what's there. So if you like, that's my contribution, is to be able to do that. And coming up to World Dawn Chorus Day, which I think was last Sunday, I thought it would be a good idea to try and focus some attention on the nature trail and try and see what's there in terms of the soundscape, the birds can create a soundscape. So that was our first attempt, if you like, from the 4.B biodiversity team to try and do an initial survey, focused on the Dawn Chorus survey. So like Paul used there's not much to see actually at that time, you can't see the birds even if they're there. Using the Merlin app and my trusty recorder, which you can see it here, is a camcorder with a good quality directional mic on it, a Rode mic. And I got up at 5 o'clock for about the last 2 weeks of April and went out each morning. And I must say, I felt really good. First few days it was tough, but once I got used to it, it was really uplifting to be out there at that time of the day, just listening when there's no one else around. And the results of that now are provided on our biodiversity website, and I can send the link to everybody, but I'll post it on the WhatsApp group. There's a page now set up, and you can see on the right-hand side, in blue font, those are all the locations. So we aggregated up, we looked at the route, and we picked 12 spots on that route, and a bit like Paul, we did 10 to 15 minute observations at each of those points, and then accumulated the data, which is what I'll show you in a moment. Yeah, if you want to copy the QR code, that should take you straight to that webpage. Now, we're going to try something which is technically challenging for us, which is to play an example of one of these dawn choruses. We couldn't get it to play before, so fingers crossed. Well done, Richard. So each location is about two minutes long, it's not long clips. So that's the sound, and they're all different. You know, if you listen to them all one after another, you'll be able to see differences in them, but of course there are all similarities as well. So that's the table of the accumulated data for the 12 sites, and those are the birds that invariably are making up that symphony. And I know now because you know them all from before, but everywhere we look on that trail, those are the birds at 5 o'clock in the morning contributing to the dawn chorus. And there's a lot of similarity to what Paul has shown there as well.
How did you identify them?
Only through using the Merlin app.
So they pick up one out of all that?
They pick up the whole lot. I mean, it is like magic, I'm sure. If you use it, you just watch the bird, you know, as it detects the pattern of the song or the call.
I think that's the strength of Merlin. I think, you know, a seasoned birder who uses sound from, I think would still miss that. When you've got that sort of symphony going on with that number of species, and that's the power of Merlin. It sifts them out, and it does, and it identifies them. It gives you that. I can pick out some birds now from sound. But when they're singing like that, you can't get that many. So it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
So having done that basic work at 5 a.m, we decided to extend it to daytime observations as well. So for each of those locations, those 12 points, myself and several of the members of the team have been out there and had a look to see what is actually there. And so far we have about 50 species. So what I'm reporting now is just, if you like, an interim report, a first report. And the idea is that we'll keep contributing to this survey, this data collection over the next few weeks. But we might be able to break down all that data into what are the commonest birds, first of all. So those 6 birds there occur in all 12 locations. And more or less, I wouldn't say every time, but more or less every time you go to that location, you will see and hear those birds. They are ubiquitous, if you like, in this area. And the rest of the birds there are all counted in at least 10 locations on the trail. And then we've got a group 6 to 9 occurrences out of the 12. There's 5 species there: parakeet and magpie, nuthatch, greenfinch and dunnock. And then 3 to 5 occurrences, 16 species: goldfinch, chaffinch, firecrest, goldcrest, bullfinch, nuthatch, greater whitethroat, house sparrow, missel thrush, siskin and garden warbler. And then the greater spotted woodpecker, collared dove, stock dove, skylark and raven. So if you like, those are they're around, but they're less common. And then the rare birds that we are detecting there from the patterns are those 18 species. I won't run through them all, but they're around, but very sporadic and seem to be located in very particular areas. I haven't done any sort of analysis in terms of trying to link those to particular habitats. I think there's one of the problems with Merlin is there is sonic leakage, in the sense that you might be, like that recording there, Tranquil Wood, by the wood, but you are actually hearing birds outside the wood. And so there is invariably a bit of a mixed sound coming through in the app, but perhaps less so at 5 a.m. than other times of the day. I mentioned these ideas of green corridors, and I think they're quite important in our area. So if you just take a map like the Open Street map and plot on all the woodland areas in green, then all the white areas there are essentially farmland, and then the yellowish areas are habitations, the villages. It looks quite sparse in terms of woodland areas, but if you start adding on the lines along the roads and the railways and significant hedge lines, and also the villages, and the villages are particularly important because they are mature gardens. And the mature gardens have lots of hedges and lots of shrubs and mature trees. We have this complexity of layering in many of the gardens in Betchworth and Buckland, and these effectively constitute woodland areas. Anyway, so three areas, railway, A25, and B was the Betchworth village. We also sampled those, so you can see on the right-hand side of the data there, those three columns. And you can see, just from the pattern, that they're very, very similar to what we were getting elsewhere around the nature trail. There's a great degree of similarity. And if you just tot up the number of species, the range of numbers of different species in all those 15 locations, 12 on the nature trail and the three green corridors, if you like, is a range of 16 to 27 species with an average of 21. And when you look at the bird population as a whole, it looks like the core population is a woodland or a woodland edge population. That wren, blackbird, robin, songthrush, great tit, blue tit, blackcap and chiffchaff, they're all inhabitants of those sorts of areas. And we think then, from our very preliminary study, that if you like, the sonic signature of this whole area is really a woodland. Regardless of whether you're in a farmland area, you are actually sampling sonically the woodland from the whole area. So the interesting species I think is the wren, because the wren, it is one of our commonest birds. We found it in all the locations. Almost, it's the first bird that pops up as soon as you put Merlin on in many locations. And it has a very small home range. Generally, it's not much bigger than a large garden. It will inhabit that space, and that will be its territory, and try and hold it. And I think what our preliminary findings are hinting at is that there's huge connectivity and continuity around all these lines of woodland edges and shrubs and scrub edges, sufficient for the wren to be, if you like, ubiquitous, universal through the whole area. So I think that's the sort of finding that seemed to emerge from this very initial study. So we'd like people to join this survey, and we'll post on in the WhatsApp Nature group. We'll put our results on this web page, again with the QR code to take you there. And anybody who is walking the trail or wants to add something close to the trail, then we can keep adding to this database. So that's our intention in the coming months. And of course, remember, this time of the year we've begun our sampling. Other times of the year we'll get other birds. And putting it all together, when we put there is great similarity between our data and Paul's data. When we put it all together, I think we'll have quite a significant body of data that we can have as a core knowledge, if you like, for the birds in this area. I think that finishes this. I've got a few more words to say about swifts in a minute, but I'll just pause there and just wait if people have questions.